To Cross's annoyance, Uniform had already dismissed this as a homeless-on-homeless crime, and, having reached that conclusion, had lost interest. Cross was already pretty sure they were wrong. This was because of the carrier bag the old man was still hanging on to. In it, some scraps of food and 6 cans of strong cider. Cider was life's blood on the streets, and if alcohol happened not to be your thing, then it was currency with a street value higher than gold. Cross studied the corpse's face. Who was this man? How did he end up here? Like this? What events in his life led him to this moment? What was his story? He was always drawn to cases like this, cases of the dispossessed, the outsider. He related to them because in many ways he was one himself, an outcast, a social misfit, a curiosity, someone it was easier not to engage with, to walk past, avoid. This was what interested him in murder in the first place, the ability to give a victim a voice when they no longer had one of their own. All the more compelling if the victims had had no voice when they were alive. Loners who had no one to speak for them when they'd gone. No friends or family asking questions of the police, demanding to know what had happened. Cross had received the call that morning when he was having breakfast at Tony's. He ate in this particular cafe in Redland every morning, and every morning he ate exactly the same thing. Every weekday morning, that was, unless he was away, which was rare. It was handy for Cross as he lived directly above it, in a small flat. He had walked in and sat at his usual table, which had a rather incongruous, chipped plastic reserved sign at its middle. The cafe was populated by a group of regulars eating their full Englishes, builders, taxi drivers with their money bags in the middle of the table, pensioners up early out of habit, hoping someone would say hello to make them feel like they were part of the human race again. Men buried in their tabloids. All the customers were men. Cross didn't come at weekends, despite the contiguous convenience of his flat. This was because on Saturdays and Sundays Tony let a young couple come in and make brunch. All poached eggs, avocados, huevos rancheros, lattes, sweet corn fritters, smoked salmon and creme fraiche. It had become quite the hot spot with the young, and it gave Tony 2 days off, but it wasn't for Cross. It wasn't because he felt out of place in the young, bearded hipster crowd. That was, after all, something he dealt with on a daily basis. It was the length of the seemingly permanent queue that he didn't have the patience for. Dogger and Whiff, for they were the young couple's names, had offered for him to jump the queue. A horrifying suggestion. He couldn't possibly accept preferential treatment. He was a policeman, after all. Before that, a Thai couple had done a weekly 3-night residency, cooking Thai food. It was so successful that they had been able, with Tony's blessing and a not inconsiderable financial investment, to open their own restaurant in St. Paul's nearby. "Morning, George." "Morning, Anthony." Cross was the only customer to call him this. The first time he walked in, he saw the alcohol licence above the door in the name of Anthony Corson, and had used that name ever since. No one corrected him, so there was no reason for him to think otherwise. Tony walked over with tea in a cup and saucer. Everyone else was drinking from mugs. He placed it in front of Cross and removed the reserved sign. Cross then produced a knife and fork from his pocket and put the paper napkin in his lap. He had no need to order. Tony knew what he wanted. He and the waiter came over to Cross's table a little later with his breakfast. Nothing odd in that, except that all the components were on separate plates. A fried egg, bacon, mushrooms, toast, baked beans. "Bon appétit," said Tony, putting another empty plate in front of Cross. "Merci," Cross replied. Cross placed the fried egg on his plate and carefully cut the white away from the yolk and ate it. He then placed each of the 3 rashers of bacon equidistantly from the edge of the plate, the middle rasher underneath the yolk. Tony had ensured in the kitchen that each rasher was identical in length. Cross's phone rang. He checked who it was before he answered. "Cross?" "I'll be straight over." But he went back to his breakfast,
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.